This session is presented by AU Financiers and features Subhash, Chandra and Vallabh Bhansali in conversation with MJ Akbar. And the session is introduced by Krishan Chopra. Please join me in giving them a warm welcome.
Friends, distinguished panelists, I am delighted on behalf of HarperCollins to welcome you to the release of The Z Factor, my journey as the wrong man at the right time, at the Z Jaipur Literary Festival. It is appropriate that Mr. Subhash Chandra is releasing his book in a year when his company is sponsoring the festival, making him a participant both as writer and sponsor. Dr. Chandra is one of the pioneers in television. Having launched satellite TV in India. At a function to release the book at the PM's residence yesterday, Mr. Modi commented that Dr. Subhash Chandra is a risk taker. It is an ability that he shows in business, as in this memoir. It is his defining trait, one might say. As a memoir, this is one of the most frank accounts you will come across, and a gripping read. It is an account of his rise from rupees 17 in his pocket, from a small town near Delhi, Hisar, to Z today, and an international presence. Not to mention to a turnover of rupees 17,000 crores or so, plus minus a little bit, and more horizons to touch. However, while turnovers go up and down, it is the spirit of his enterprise, the pioneering that he has done, in whatever field he has taken up, that is more significant. Among other things, changing the face of television in India, and now he'll be making a foray into infrastructure also, which should take him into new directions. Our confidence in the book is equal to his, and we are planning to reprint, so the book is yet to hit the stores. We have on stage with him MJ Akbar, who is known to everyone as a journalist, author, and politician. He's returned to politics after a long gap of about 20 years. Sorry. As an author, he is known for some remarkable books, some of them classics on the subjects that he's written about, which would be available here, and I would recommend that you pick up or take a look at the copies, including most recently A Mirror to Power, which touches upon, among other things, Indian politics, the personalities in it, and various changes that we have seen occurring in India and the subcontinent. As also there is a book called Tinderbox, The Past and Future of Pakistan, which is always in the news. His writing has many followers for its perceptive style, immense knowledge, perceptive comment, immense knowledge, and fine style that weaves in humor as well into his comment. Our other participant, Mr. Vallabh Bhansali, was en route. He's delayed, so he will not be taking, he's not arrived this far. Mr. Bhansali, I may add, has been a close associate of Dr. Subhash Chandra, both on the business side as also in terms of some of his other interests, including Vipassana. I would now request Dr. Subhash Chandra and MJ to unveil the book, and then MJ will take on the proceedings further. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Krishan. And
Krishan.
come. And welcome all of you to yet another season, India's and perhaps the world's most famous, most awaited, most anticipated literary season in the unique city of Jaipur, all made possible not just by organizers but by you. It's absolutely appropriate that this year's festival begins with one of the absolutely most splendid books I've read in a very, very long while of reading. I mean, it often occurred to me, this is such a crackerjack of a book, that it occurred to me that this year, it's really a Diwali book. Every page has firecrackers in it. And just in case you get tired of the firecrackers, there are one or two genuine nuclear explosions. Yesterday at the launch done by the Prime Minister in Delhi, he made a passing comment that, it's difficult when you write a book, when you're still working and so on. And there'll be so many people who will wonder why they have been left out. Believe me, that's not the problem with this book. The problem is those who have been left in.
They will say, why my name is here?
Why is my name here? So, anyway, it actually begins, very early from his personal life and so on. Now, I'm very clear about one thing. I'm not going to give you all the secrets of the book because it's absolutely imperative that you know less so that you can buy more. Right? However, one or two high points we must begin with. And after his very, very fascinating early life and the struggles, I think, which you're familiar with, the great journey from rupees 17 to rupees 17,000 crores. Is it 17,000 crores or 70,000 crores?
So far it is 17,000 crores.
Well, actually between 17,000 and 70,000.
I'm sure the next generation will make it 70,000 crores soon.
For me it makes no difference because I can't recognize either figure. Anyway, we begin with is an absolutely astonishing story. You are sitting here before an author. I don't know how many of you, I'm sure quite a few of you remember Beaufort. And you remember Vinchadda, who was the agent in Beaufort. You are actually sitting before a man who could have been Vinchadda. He was offered the Beaufort deal. Tell us about that and tell us about...
So you are straight going to the nuclear bombs. Huh?
Absolutely. How else do I keep them awake?
Well, I used to do a lot of business in Delhi. I was in Delhi that time and had friends in the power circles. And one morning a friend of mine, he said that I think you are our trusted person and a trusted friend. So we have some deals in which we want to make you the agent. And you will certainly make hundreds of crores of rupees. And I said, sir, but what is the deal? And he said, it's just defense ministries. I said, is it arms deal? He said, yes, obviously. What does defense otherwise purchases? So I said, can I have 1 day's time to think about it? And otherwise, I think the lure of money, 100 crores during 83, 84 was enormous. Today's must be more than 1,000 crores. So, but somehow something was telling me inside it is not right. And I came, I spoke to my brothers and couldn't sleep in the night actually. Though all these things I have not mentioned in the book. And next morning I went and told, sir, I regret it, I won't be able to do it. and had to tell a lie that my father has told me no, because अपने को आर्म्स का धंधा नहीं करना, मौत का सौदागर नहीं बनना, इसलिए नहीं कर पाऊंगा.
So what was it in your conscience that said no? I mean, you're a businessman.
It was both. Actually, what I said was also a reality. That, yeah, we can make money, but why to make money by killing people? Or why to have the arms business? There are many businesses you could do.
Sure, and he spent all his life making money out of making people laugh.
Yeah,
Much better way to do so.
I think so. Entertaining people is a better thing to do than doing arms deals, I guess.
But tell me, you are being far more discreet in your talk today than you are in the book. You've mentioned names there, which are, which are going to create new stories for Z and for everyone else. You've actually mentioned in specific detail, there is a very famous associate of Mrs. Indira Gandhi called Dhirendra Brahmachari. I wonder how many would remember his name, but he was a yoga instructor and very close and became a sort of middleman. Tell us about Dhirendra Brahmachari and his influence on Delhi's power circles at a very significant time in our history.
Well, see, a friend of mine during just a meeting told me that because I was in food grain business, grain activities, we used to supply to the army, the food grains. So a friend of mine told me that rice export to Russia is a very good business and lot of money in it. So I asked few questions, but he said he won't answer, but he said, you will not be able to imagine that much money would be there in this. But for this you need really very, very high level approach. It won't be possible at the level of, let's say, the trade was being controlled by the Commerce Ministry that time. They said, no, it won't be possible at the level of Commerce Minister to help you. And Russians will not entertain you because they have their own sources of supplies. So you need somebody above the Commerce Minister. I said, above Commerce Minister, it is only Prime Minister. Who else? Yes, somewhere there. And somehow it took me about 8 months, 9 months before we could reach. Somebody told me that Dhirendra Brahmachari can bring you anything. And I reached there and he really was helpful and he got us the first deal of rice from Russians, certainly.
And what was the quid pro quo?
Why don't you read? You have read the book. Why don't you tell the house?
Well, to learn about the quid pro quo will cost you how much? What is the price?
600.
699 rupees. But I'll tell you, it's money very well worth spent. Money very worth spent. But, to come to the larger issue, even if you move around outside personalities, and I'm asking a question, I think, on behalf of the audience. Is business in our country possible without corruption?
I think so, it is possible. And I would say that, okay, this transaction which we did of rice, and I really made a lot of money in 4 or 5 years' time. But it was cross-border deal, and I don't know how they were doing it, but I think within India, if you want to do business, you can do business without any corruption, if it is a straight business. If you need to do hera-pheri, you want to make quick money with shortcuts, then certainly you will have to share the money with the others.
I find one thing...
You heard yesterday, one of the cabinet ministers of Government of India, I am friends with him now more than 14 years. He was ex-Chief Minister of Goa, and now he's Defense Minister of Government of India. But I've kept my friendship but never gone to him. Many of them are there. In this government, previous government, Congress government, never went to people for asking for business deal transaction, because my companies do business directly, straight. They participate in the bidding process. They get or they don't get it.
Yes, that was Manohar Parrikar, who I believe is an absolutely honest politician, and I think I can say that without hesitation. He was very categorical
Yeah.
about what he said. The interesting part that I find is that because you did business along in a certain way, you went through a lot of pain. The success that you see did not come easily, and there were moments of deep depression, sleepless nights. What sort of temperament is required when you are taking a risk and you really almost put your whole bank balance on the roulette table?
Even after buying, borrowing also. Not
Yeah.
only your own, but also borrowing.
Right. So what exactly does you go through? Is it a high that comes out of the risk-taking instinct, or what is it that motivates you?
To create something new, to do something different which has not been done in the country is what motivates and what gives me a kick. And basically, if I'm convinced, if I'm having conviction about doing some business, some activity, some action, once having conviction, I will go whole hog for it. Then I'll trust not only myself, I'll trust the business, I'll do it with passion, with full passion. Otherwise, you cannot do something which you are doing for the first time.
Now, you've known just about every businessman of your generation, on a very personal level. Does money make you arrogant?
It can, it can. But I have evaded that telephone number. I have not dialed it.
Who's more arrogant, the tycoon or the politician?
What do you want me to say now? Both are equally, because they both rely on each other.
Anyway, in essence, it seems to me that you've had, although you've had your difficulties with various governments, including, there'll be some surprises there too in the book. But your really problem has been with other businessmen who have gone after you. And the book ends on, I thought, would be a very anguished note. The chapter on Naveen Jindal. He's a, present businessman, very big, owns whatever, steel and God knows what else. But it seems to me a very display of fairly vicious anger. Could you just tell us a little about Naveen Jindal?
Yeah. What to tell about him?
Well, precisely how he behaved when you wanted to do a story.
He was and he is like my younger brother. But when you are, you rightly asked me that question, that when the success and the money has got few impacts on the human mind. One is like, if you get more money, you become more humble. Like a tree, when a tree has got more fruits on it, it goes down. Or you have an impact on it that makes you too arrogant. And that's what...
is that what has happened to Naveen Jindal?
This is what happened with Naveen Jindal. And Zee News is known for its being truthful. They reported, like everybody else reported, the scam in the coal, which has brought, God knows, I guess more than 700,000 crores to the government of India and to the state government, just, I would say that single-handedly Z News can take credit of it.
For exposing the whole coal
For
scam.
exposing and continuing the whole
In which
scam.
the country lost 700,000
7 lakh crore.
700,000 crores.
Yes, sir.
Now grapple with that figure, because 700,000 crores would come to what percent of the, budget?
I would say that it's almost 20% of the national budget.
More. I
Maybe
think.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be more. That's the kind of, this is
Yeah.
one deal. This is one
And
deal.
then, on top of that, when it was exposed, he hit one of our correspondent in one of the meetings. He threw away his camera, broken his camera, and became very arrogant. And that's when the journalist fraternity, they told me, the 10 of them, they came to me and said, we are all going to resign unless you give us free hand to go after him, because this is what he has done. I said, yes, you have to, there is no choice. And of course, I had to pay price, because for the first time in 48 years of my business career, he filed a FIR, and which was lodged, which was received by the Delhi police, obviously under the political influence of that time. FIR was lodged on 2nd October in the night, on a holiday at the night at 11:30 p.m. without any inquiry or without anything. So that's the price you have
No,
to
what
pay.
happened?
Nothing, because
No,
when
at the 11:30 when the police came, did they want to arrest you?
No. They didn't come to me or anything. We came to know after 7 days that the FIR has been lodged, that we were trying to extort money from Mr. Naveen Jindal.
Yeah, that's it. Now, there's also the mention of how a particular businessman, well, in this case Jindal, tried to bribe your correspondents. Is that true?
That is where the whole story started. Because he first tried to bribe my editor, and when he refused to take bribe, he then resorted to manhandling. And the power that we at that time, they supported him, and they said, this channel is the only one who is exposing all our scams. Because in that year there were at least 10 or dozen of scams we exposed of that government.
Aren't
They said
you-
if we can shut him up, then the whole media will shut up. And actually it happened. For 1 week, none of the media was talking about any scam or anything about coal or anything once this FIR was lodged. So every other media owner got scared.
Doesn't libel law worry you? You're saying all this publicly.
Ultimately, the honesty will prevail. When the matter went to the trial court, the trial court threw it out that there is no cases made out of it. And that's where it is. Nothing has been. If there was any substance in it, they should have filed charge sheet and they should have tried me out.
Well, there's some very interesting episodes of confrontations, including with other businessmen, big names, iconic names in our industry. Mukesh Ambani. What is your memory of your... Again, you said something?
Yeah,
some
very
things which
clear.
are-
Very clearly, it was Dhirubhai Ambani, not Mukesh Ambani that time. And basically, I would tell first the audience here that if you are following certain principle in life, be prepared to pay some price out of it. Because a principle that once a friend, always a friend can cost you dearly, and that is what happened with me. In Mumbai city, I had a very close friend, like my younger brother, Mukesh Patel.
Yeah. He passed away.
He passed away untimely. And he was running a school where almost 30,000 children were studying that time. And the Ambani one of the Ambani Bahus wanted to take over that school. So Mukesh Ambani, though was a small businessman, no comparison. Mukesh Patel, I beg your pardon. No comparison with Ambani's, but he decided to take them on. And so he went after them, he recorded some of their illegal activities. He came to me that I should run it on Z News. I did try, I said, no, I'm not going to run it. Why don't you compromise? Because nothing is going to happen. Even if we run it, they will not be, the system is totally, completely under their control, and nothing will happen. So why do you want to do this? I avoided him for 2 weeks, but he's one day, 6 o'clock in the morning, came and emotionally blackmailed and said that, oh, is that the friendship means? So I ran that, and that costed me $3 billion.
Cost you?
Costed me.
How?
Well, they hammered the stock in the stock market, and we lost $3 billion that time.
I was actually going to come to that. Here you are on a paper billionaire, heaven knows I know how much. And in a year's time, you lost 80% of your value?
Yeah, we did.
80% of your stock value was lost. Combination, perhaps there might be
combination of the other market reality also.
So how do you feel when you lose 80% of your...
Well...
I mean, sense of despair?
No. It hurts, but I never, looking back, it doesn't, I don't have regrets. I did what I felt right. I mean, once a friend, always a friend, no matter what happens.
All right, those of you who aren't friend of Subhash Chandra, please send in your applications. Other very interesting personalities. Rupert Murdoch. Give us a glimpse of what Rupert Murdoch wanted to do in India, what happened.
Well, I hope Krishan don't lose his job, because the publisher is owned by Mr. Murdoch now, who is publishing his book.
HarperCollins is a Rupert Murdoch company.
Naturally, Mr. Murdoch, I admire him. I respect him, because he is also a very determined individual. Whatever he decides to go, he does it. He goes for it, no matter what happens. And his business model is naturally to dominate the media in any country he operates. And in India, he entered through a partnership with us. It was an equal partnership. I was certainly warned by the international industry people that you are going to dance with the devil. Are you ready for it? But I think...
Hi. Welcome.
Thank you. So, but he then offered me to buy out, and I refused to sell, because I felt that media business for India is not only a simply business. I think, I have seen the days when first Z was launched. Vallabh knows about that. We still have in our warehouse the letters. Those time in 1991, people used to write through the postcards and things like that. Email was just beginning. We have tons of them. And people have written with their blood a letter about Z. They took the ownership of Z with them. If we would do something wrong, next morning we will have, a third day we will have at least 2,000 letters that why did you do this on that day? That kind of ownership was there. So when Mr. Murdoch offered me to buy out, and money was not small, it was in 97, he offered me 50,000 crores to buy out my 50%, close to that kind of number. But I said, no, India is not for sale.
There you are. There in essence you have the man. He's content with 17,000 crores and refused 50,000. Put that in, it's a comparative fact. The interesting thing, I think the audience will really love to know. I mean, everyone knows about Kaun Banega Crorepati, right? That show was offered to you first, wasn't it?
Yeah, to
and
our
then what
company.
happened? Why didn't you take it? It is the biggest success, I think, in Indian television, and you turned it down.
Not me, it was professionally management was there that time, and they decided in their wisdom, no, not to take it. There is nothing right or wrong. Now it is sounding wrong because it was successful, so that's okay.
But the managing director who didn't take it lost his job.
Yes, he did.
No. What intrigues me, and I have to ask this, our friendship is strong enough to bear these questions.
Yes.
But what intrigues me is that for all the reputation that tycoons have, can a managing director take such a decision without consulting you?
I think my colleagues will vouch for that. A lot of decisions they do take, but at times, if I come to know that there is some wrong decision happening, I do intervene. There is no question about it.
Now a little bit, how much time do you have left, Krishan? What's that?
20 minutes.
Good. So this is the time I think we need to take a break, bring in Mr. Bhansali also into it, because there is a very fascinating personal life behind the business story. And if perhaps the central fact of his personal life is a discipline called Vipassana. And I don't know if anyone knows how devoted Subhash is to Vipassana. Would you like to talk about it? And I know you would also like to talk about it.
Sure.
So why don't you, aap kahein and then you'll take it on.
Well, Vipassana is a...
I think the kids personally should know about it.
Yes, a form of meditation as taught by Gautama the Buddha, and I got it from my driver teacher S.N. Goenka in 1990, and since then I am practicing it. In between there was a 2-year gap, I would say, but that keeps me quite well, I wouldn't say completely equanimous, but I try to be equanimous. And that's what this first step of Vipassana meditation is. Of course, Vallabh is more advanced than me in this.
No, just before that, tell them 30 days of silence.
Yes, 30 days.
Think about it.
30 days of not only silence, but there is no phone, there is no television, no newspaper. Actually, when you are in that place, you talk to only your teacher, and with other inmates and who are also in meditation. Normally, you are not supposed to even make the eye contact. So that's we call it as Arya Mon, is the word we use.
What is the experience like? Aap kahein?
It's very interesting that over my 60-year plus existence, I came to realize that whenever we are dealing with anybody, actually you're dealing with yourself. And this self, you know very little about. And Vipassana gives you a chance to examine what this self is. And of course, since very few people even know how to begin to know oneself, it's not easy, so it makes some effort to start doing it. But those who are able to get to the level where you start understanding yourself your mental makeup, your physical makeup, your intellectual makeup, you can imagine the power, the peace, the facility that one gets. And having experienced this, it is 10 days, 20 days, 30 days of, these rules are actually just sounding very daunting to those who have not come into it. But I think we take to it very, very easily. And we all long to go back for longer courses. So it's extremely liberating, enlightening.
It certainly sounds daunting to me, because I can't think of a journalist who will keep silent for 15 seconds, let alone 30 days. Why don't you send some of your journalists on this course?
Well, we have a rule in our group that anybody going for Vipassana is treated on job.
As part of his...
Yes, and a lot of people are going.
Yeah.
Might end up with silent news, half an hour.
Mahatma Gandhi, I'm sure you're aware, and if you're not, you should be. Every week on Mondays, he would observe complete silence. He would not talk to anyone. Even when he was negotiating with the British, negotiating with Lord Irwin, and if the talks they were continued on a Monday, he would answer through a written chit. In writing, he would not talk. And I remember, pardon this intrusion, but I remember when he first came to India after South Africa, and he was exploring and trying to find out what to do. And Gopal Krishna Gokhale told him that if you want to understand this country, keep quiet for 1 year. Keep your mouth shut for 1 year and keep your eyes open. Very good recipe for people in politics. So, you know, would you like to say something? Because I find this. Do you think of yourself as a Buddhist?
No, Buddha never taught any ism, actually. He simply said that being dharmic is real. Being a real human being. And he was against any ism, actually. So I don't consider myself Buddhist or any this thing. So.
True, a valid point to be made that Buddha himself was not a Buddhist.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Would you like to ask something, one, from Subhash, and number two, your memories of the earliest days of Z, and, you know, how he went through that phase of his life?
So let me, my first memory of Subhash Chandra goes back to the early 80s, 83, 84, when SL
83.
packaging issue was launched and we mobilized a whole lot of money. I remember 40% of the IPO was procured by us. We were so excited about this new technology. And for years, nothing was happening in the company. And in 1989, there was the right issue and we decided to underwrite, and the rest is history. But
No, but explain that history, because I don't think there's awareness.
Sure. So SL Group was still very small group at that point of time. And
This was our first industrial venture, actually.
first industrial venture, and they had thought that they will get big boys like Hindustan Lever and Colgate as their customers, and they went back on it. They made good. They wanted the company to come up because they had the option that way, but they never started buying. And there were loans on the books. But when I noticed, you know, in 87, 88, that somehow this company was keeping its loan payments going. And this was because profits of other companies in the group, they were diverted to this company, and I was extremely impressed. I said, someone showing this kind of commitment in India of that time was not common. And though they were unknown, and let me tell you another story about that time. When he went public, that time his family surname was Goenka, the rest of the family still says Goenka. And there were other industrialists in the name of Goenka who said, oh, who is this man trying to masquerade as Goenka? And something which is very typical of Subhash Chandra that you need to know is how he became Subhash Chandra. That we had that Mandal Commission issue in the country.
Yeah. 89.
And we were trying to create the whole big communal atmosphere, that's when he decided that as it is people are objecting to Goenka surname, as if I'm trying to masquerade as someone else, plus this whole, communal or my caste should be known by my surname. He went to the extent of changing his name forever to Subhash Chandra. So,
Yeah.
So that's his passion and commitment. So his commitment to the company attracted my attention, and we decided to underwrite the right issue. And there were a few million rupees that time, some 50, 60 lakhs. And so the company started, and we developed a great fondness for each other that I didn't go by the formality, I just went by the man and his commitment. And then we did SL World. We tried to raise money for SL World, but that didn't happen in the manner that we thought. And then came ZTV. When this whole ZTV proposal came, obviously they were a very small fry, Times of India and other big boys were there. And I knew that there was no money. But he said, Vallabh karna hai. And we said, chalo karna hai. And that was extraordinary determination at a point of time to get into a business about which he knew little, the country knew extremely little, and the big boys thought that it is impossible that anybody else except them could do it. And we had a lot of legal difficulties because a company in India could not launch it. And
There was no law.
There was no law that permitted.
No, law was there, but according to that, reception of television signal from any foreign land or a foreign satellite was illegal.
That's what I
Very specific.
And therefore, we had somebody trying to beam through Russian satellite, and some kind of cable TV, etc. was available. But he saw the opportunity, we saw the opportunity that if something can happen, this will be extraordinary. And this meant that we had to create companies abroad, get foreigners to raise money, to give us money at a point of time when he was hardly known. And all that got done with his passion and our passion. And we had the best of investors started to look at it. And the book is, of course, a fascinating account of what all he had to go through. And I literally saw Subhash Chandra blossom from the Haryana boy to talk to all these very sophisticated media people. That was the first private equity of its kind raised in the country. That Asia Today, the company that got created.
Which had the advertising rights, I think.
That's right. And then we had Sir Jimmy Goldsmith. Jimmy Goldsmith was a very, very big boy of the world at that point of time.
Let me introduce Jimmy Goldsmith. He is the father of somebody you should all be familiar with, Imran Khan's wife, Jemima.
Yeah, Jemima is his daughter. So we were able to get to the most sophisticated people, and in no time, my friend was able to start leveling with them. And so that was the extraordinary part. The other part, even the book that does not bring out probably in as much detail is that how visionary in the very early days. Later on, of course, he became a big champion trying to, evangelize the whole country, MPs and so on. But even at that point of time, he decided that, no, Vallabh, we have to control the distribution. We must create a company like City Cable, etc. So it's extremely difficult to visualize that someone who came into a complex business like media and how he took to it like fish to water. And he could visualize completely over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years as to what will be necessary. And he took all the steps, whether it was the business part, the news part, the distribution part, and distribution of every kind in the sky, in the ground, DTH, etc. So it's been absolutely fascinating, walking the journey with him.
What it is essentially, I'll sum it up. He actually created an industry which didn't exist.
I think that's the way to put it.
Something just, he was a pioneer. He, like Jamshed Tata, created the steel industry,
Absolutely.
which did not exist before him. He actually created a television industry which nobody...
They employs 4 million people.
Yeah. Absolutely nobody, and I was, I'd been in media for a long while. It's not that the big boys are status quoists in any industry, anywhere. And that's always the danger, of course, of becoming a big boy, and I think Z is now a big boy. So the danger is to avoid
To become complacent
just status quo is,
and status quo.
right? Even if you're not complacent.
One other difference that I've seen is that I haven't seen any other media magnate commit serious money to a new venture in the company. They always depended on their cash flows and maybe divert a part of that. Here was a man who was ready to take any kind of bet to get into a new area. So it was not only that he visualized, but the kind of risk he took is unknown to media.
So from the money man perspective, this is one of the things that we've addressed before, Subhash and risk. I mean, all businesses are risk averse. I mean, that is the kind of thing that you recommend to businessmen before you put your money in their pockets.
Yes
Or
and no.
at least in their hands, then they put it into their pockets.
I would say yes and no that, people who know NM Securities, we have backed, I think, hundreds of businessmen in this country. He, of course, takes the cake because not every time he wanted to enter a new field, he took extreme risk. A number of times that, we tried to raise money for Agrani, and so I think he was unique in the sense that he took great risk almost every time. But there are other people who have taken that kind
I think
of
this
risk.
is the perfect moment to ask him, to ask Subhash, Chandra, is there still a future which excites you as much as it excited you in 1992? Or has your life, in your sense, come to a pause and you're going to reap the harvest of all that effort?
I don't think I'll be ever able to do that. No, but I see a great future for us as our group as well as for the country.
No, I'm talking about yourself now. I mean, the group is now being looked after your sons. Don't interfere.
Yeah, okay. I don't. Yes. So for myself also, I see lots things because there are better things to do in life than just making money.
So name two.
And even
Name two.
name two. I would say that I have told my team they are working very, very diligently. That people are talking, making smart city. I said, let's make smart villages in India. So that's one thing which is close passion of mine at the moment. And the other is that I want to propagate our ancient medicine, which is Ayurveda, nature cure, yogic sciences. Globally, I want to popularize that in a big way.
I must take you to the village I have adopted as a member of parliament.
Yes.
It's a tribal village in Gumla, which is now the most Naxal-prone area. Nobody actually goes there. Even if you ask private companies to do work there, they don't go. They don't pick up the tender. And this week, actually I'm very happy. For the first time in history, they've got electricity.
Yeah, good.
Just by putting in effort. They're going to get a little water. But that is the kind of place which should become the smart city of the future.
We should. That is where.
That is where the challenge is.
I think that if we can make about 25% of our villages smart, smart in the sense that they have hygienic way of living, healthy life, and little bit better education. Only these things with some electricity, health facilities, and total clean sanitation and all those things. That is where I think that is a smart city. It's not that the connect or internet and that kind of thing will make. Internet is coming anyway. That is a icing on the cake. But once we can make 30% of those villages self-sufficient in this sense, I think our GDP growth can be additional 3%.
Yeah, easily. Now, the Subhash Chandra, the individual, you have been actually very honest in your book, startlingly honest about your life as a childhood, in your childhood. And shall I mention housing?
Yeah, you can.
And it's very candid exposition of him and growing up and so on. So why don't you let us know where exactly you would like to be when your next book is launched as a human being, which is probably going to be called My Journey as the Right Man at the Wrong Time.
Well, let's see. But I think I would continue to work. Whatever I do, I'll do with passion. And I hope that before you see my next book, we would have at least 20 to 50 villages which would be known to be smart and self-sufficient.
Absolutely. That's great. Now, yesterday I...
The audience can ask the question.
Now, hi, it's a good idea. How much time do we have?
We have 5 minutes or so.
Oh,